Being recorded.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما أما بعد فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, tonight we will continue with the tafsir of Surah Yusuf and the lessons that we can learn from this surah to implement in our current situation. Inshallah, tonight we'll try to get as much as possible to the end of the story bi'idhnillah, so we can save next week's session for a Ramadan preparation class, inshallah. So we left off last week talking about Yusuf alayhi salam and his unjust imprisonment, how he went to prison for something that he didn't do, yet how he remained patient in that situation, and how he used that time in isolation to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Mufassirin have mentioned that while Yusuf alayhi salam was in prison, he used to spend his time in ibadah, he used to pray, he used to make dhikr of Allah, he used to remember Allah, he used to make dua, he used to visit the sick people in the jail, he used to cheer the people up who were depressed in jail, so he became known in jail as a person from the muhsinin, a person from the righteous ones, from the doers of good. So he was well loved by everyone in the prison. They said even the guards of the prison, they started to love him as well. So because of his attitude, because of his patience, because of his closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of his patience upon the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that made things easy for him in a difficult situation, and it made him beloved to others as well. We mentioned last week about the two young men who entered prison along with Yusuf alayhi salam, and we mentioned the dreams that they had and how they asked Yusuf alayhi salam to interpret those dreams for them. And we went into detail regarding those dreams last week. So the gist of what we talked about last week regarding these dreams is that one of these young men, his dream was a sign that he was going to be executed, and he was executed. And the other one, his dream was a sign that he would be released from prison and he would go back to his old job. And his job was providing drink and making wine for the king. So exactly what Yusuf alayhi salam interpreted for these two men, that is exactly what happened. So one of them was executed, the other one was released. Now, before the one who was released, before he left prison, Yusuf alayhi salam asked him for a favor. He said to him, "Udhkurni inda rabbik," that when you get out of prison, just remind the king about me. Just tell the king that there's a person in jail. His name is Yusuf, and this is his situation. Maybe the king can help me out. You work directly for the king. You have access to the king. Maybe you can just do me a favor and tell him about my situation, and maybe he can help me out. Right? So this was Yusuf alayhi salam's request to this man before he left prison. So eventually, in a couple of days, in about 3 days, as the Mufassirin have mentioned, this man, he was released from prison. He went back to his job, making wine for the king. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ. But the shaitan made him forget to tell his master, to tell the king about Yusuf alayhi salam. So he was going to do it. Yusuf alayhi salam asked him for this favor, and he agreed to do it, but he forgot, and he didn't mention Yusuf alayhi salam to the king at all. So Yusuf alayhi salam remained in jail, basically forgotten by the outside world. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. So he stayed in prison, he remained in prison after that for بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. And we mentioned last week, بِضْعَ سِنِينَ, the word bid'a in Arabic, it's a number from 3 to 9. So he stayed in jail after that for at least 3 years, up to perhaps 9 years. But the Mufassirin have mentioned that it was 7 years. So he stayed in jail, imprisoned for something that he didn't do for 7 more years, right? So that's a difficult situation to be in, especially when you know you're innocent, right? If a person is guilty and he goes to jail, at least in the back of his mind, he knows that he deserves this, right? But a person who's innocent and he knows he's innocent, it would be more difficult for this person to remain patient in this type of situation. But Yusuf alayhi salam, he was the epitome of patience. And he showed that he was pleased with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon him, no matter what it was. So he stayed in jail and he remained patient. All right. So at the end of these 7 years that he remained in jail, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused the king of Egypt, right? Now, we shouldn't get the king of Egypt mixed up with the treasurer of Egypt, right? Sometimes people get mixed up because both of these people are mentioned in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. The treasurer of Egypt, who was known as Al-Aziz, he was the one who bought Yusuf alayhi salam, and he's the one in whose home Yusuf alayhi salam stayed, the Aziz, right? And his name was Qitfir, as we mentioned. Now, the king of Egypt was a man named Rayyan ibn al-Walid, and he's the king, right? So he's in charge of everything in Egypt. So he has a dream. He has a dream, and his dream is that he sees 7 fat cows and 7 very thin, weak, lean cows. And the thin and weak, lean cows, they swallow the fat cows, right? And also, in addition to that, he saw 7 green ears of corn and 7 dry ears of corn, right? So that's his dream. 7 fat cows, 7 thin cows. The thin cows eat up the fat cows. And 7 green ears of corn, which means, you know, that they're ripe and they're good. And 7 dry ears of corn, right? So this is the dream that he had, and he felt very confused about this dream. But he knew that, you know, it seems that this dream is not just a random dream. This dream, it seems like it will have some type of meaning, right? So that's the king of Egypt. He has this dream. So he gathers his people who work for him in the royal court to ask them for help in interpreting the dream. Maybe there's someone who knows how to interpret dreams. They can tell me what this dream means. So he gathers the people in his court, some magicians, some soothsayers, you know, some of the other people who worked with him. He gathers them and he asks them, is there anyone who can interpret this dream for me that I saw? And nobody had any idea what this dream meant. So they actually replied to the king. They said, قالوا أضغاث أحلام وما نحن بتأويل الأحلام بعالمين. They said, you know, these are some type of confusing types of dreams, and we don't know how to interpret these types of dreams. So they flat out told the king that we have no idea what this dream means, right? Now, in the midst of all this, the man who served wine to the king, who had spent some time in prison with Yusuf alayhi salam 7 years earlier. Now with all of this talk about dreams and interpreting the king's dream, right? This triggered his mind. He remembered 7 years ago how Yusuf alayhi salam had interpreted his own dream. And that dream, it happened exactly as Yusuf alayhi salam interpreted. So he had forgotten all of this time, but now with this renewed talk about a dream, and the king is saying, I need interpretation of this dream. Now this man, he remembers the person who interpreted his dream, Yusuf alayhi salam, who's still in prison. So once he remembers, he immediately tells the king, وَقَالَ الَّذِي نَجَا مِنْهُمَا وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ أَنَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِتَأْوِيلِهِ فَأَرْسِلُونَ. He tells the king that I can tell you the interpretation of this dream. I know someone who can interpret it. So just send me, let me go. He's in the prison. I will go to the prison. I will meet him and I will ask him and he can help us. Right? So the king agrees to this. He says, okay, I need the interpretation of this dream. So if you know someone who can interpret this, then yeah, go ahead, go to him and ask him for his help. So this man, after 7 years, he comes back to the prison to meet Yusuf alayhi salam. Now this is really amazing how this meeting goes, right? Imagine if we were in such a situation, right? You do a favor for a guy by interpreting his dream, and you ask him to do a favor for you in return. Like, I interpreted your dream for you, so can you just remind the king or tell the king about my situation? Maybe he can help me out. And he says, yeah, I'll do it for you. But then he goes and he forgets about you, and 7 years pass. Right? And he didn't do anything for you. Now he comes back to you after 7 years and he asks you for your help again, right? If you think about how most people would deal with this situation, seeing this person who was supposed to tell the king about your situation, but he didn't do it. Now 7 years have passed and you are basically sitting in jail for a crime you didn't commit. How would most of us react to seeing this person come back again, who didn't help us out when we needed? Right? Most of us would be angry to see him. Most of us would remind him, like, I helped you out. I told you the interpretation of your dream. I asked you for one favor. You didn't do it. And now look, I've been sitting here in jail for 7 years. I'm not going to help you. Please, I don't even want to see you. Right? That's how most of us would probably react to this type of situation. Right? But we can learn from Yusuf alayhi salam. How did he react to this situation? He was very calm and he was very patient. And he didn't even get angry at this man. He didn't even remind him. He said, like, look, he didn't even say to him, like, I asked you to tell the king about my situation and you didn't even do that. Now you're asking for my help. He didn't even say anything like that, right? Rather, he helped this man again without asking for anything in return. So this man, he goes to Yusuf alayhi salam, he meets him again and he says, Yusufu ayyuha as-siddiq. Oh Yusuf, oh truthful one. He calls him ayyuha as-siddiq, truthful one, because he has experienced his truthfulness before, 7 years earlier. So he knows this is a truthful man. Yusufu ayyuha as-siddiq, aftina في 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات لعلي أرجع إلى الناس لعلهم يعلمون. He goes to Yusuf alayhi salam and he says, Yusuf, give us the interpretation of this dream that the king had of 7 fat cows and 7 thin cows. The thin cows eat up the fat cows, and 7 green ears of corn and 7 dry ears of corn. This is the dream that the king had. So please tell me the interpretation of this dream. لَعَلِّي أَرْجِعُ إِلَى النَّاسِ. So I can go back to the people, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, so that they can know the interpretation of this dream, so that the king can know what this dream of his meant. So please tell me so I can go and tell the king. Right? So now, Yusuf alayhi salam has some power here. Right? He has the ability to negotiate here. He could have said, like, okay, I'll tell you the interpretation of the dream, but in exchange for that, I want to get out of jail. If the king releases me from jail, then I will tell him what his dream means. But if he doesn't release me from jail, then I'm not going to tell him. He could have done that, right? But did he do that? No, he didn't do that. He didn't do that. Rather, he directly told the interpretation of the dream without asking anything in return. Look how amazing this man is, alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam. He knows that, the interpretation of this dream is something important for the general welfare of the people. Like if the king doesn't realize what this dream means, then that is going to cause widespread problems amongst the people. It's going to hurt the people. It's going to hurt the public. So Yusuf alayhi salam, instead of thinking of himself and his own situation and helping himself, no, he was not selfish like that. Rather, his main concern was to help the people, right? So he was willing to even stay in jail as long as the people can be helped, right? So he immediately told this man the interpretation of this dream without any conditions attached. It's amazing. So he told him the interpretation of the dream. He said, قال تزرعون 7 سنين دأبا فما حصدتم فذروه في سنبله إلا قليلا مما تأكلون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك 7 شداد يأكلن ما قدمتم لهن إلا قليلا مما تحصنون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك عام فيه يغاث الناس وفيه يعصرون. So basically he's telling the interpretation of this dream is that this dream, it's talking about what's going to happen in a period of the next 15 years. 15 years. He said there are 7 years that you shall basically sow your harvest as normal. Like, the farmers are going to go and do their thing and they're going to reap their harvest. It's just going to be normal, 7 years. But during those normal 7 years, you should make sure that you leave whatever you reap in the ears. Don't use too much of it. Don't consume too much. Save it. Just just consume the minimal amount that you need to survive, to eat, right? And the rest of it, save it. Keep it in the ears so it doesn't go bad, and store it, right? Because you're going to need that for the following 7 years. So 7 years are going to be normal, but make sure that you save as much as possible during those normal 7 years, because the 7 years that come after that are going to be 7 very difficult years. There's going to be drought, there's going to be famine, right? You're not going to have any harvest, so you will need to use whatever you saved during the previous 7 years. You'll basically use all of that up, right? So store for 7 years and then use up what you have stored for the next 7 years and save a little bit, even in those difficult 7 years, save a little bit so that you can plant more for the future. Don't devour everything, because if everything is gone, then you're going to have no seeds left to even plant anything in the future. So eat from what you have stored, but still save a little bit so that you can plant it after those 7 difficult years are over. After those 7 difficult years are over, then 1 year will come. ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك عام فيه يغاث الناس وفيه يعصرون. Then 1 year will come where there will be a lot of rain, and everything will return back to normal. People are going to be pressing olive oil, and people are going to be pressing wine. Everything is going to return back to normal during that 1 year. So 7 normal years that you need to make sure you save as much as possible. Then 7 difficult years where you will eat what you have saved in the previous 7 years, but save a little bit so that you can plant for the future as well. Then 1 year is going to come where the rain will come back and the earth will basically come back to life again. Alhamdulillah. So this dream, basically it talked about the events of a period of 15 years. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he gives the interpretation of the dream, and he also gives advice regarding what to do. He didn't just tell the meaning of the dream, rather he said what you should do as well. He said, 7 years are going to be normal, but save as much as possible. Then the next 7 years, you can use what you save, but still save a little bit so that you can plan in the future. So he's not only interpreting the dream, but he's also telling you what to do as well. He's telling the king basically, or he's telling this man to tell the king what to do, how to manage the situation as well. So he gives him the interpretation of the dream, and he also gives him a management plan for the situation that is going to occur. So he straight out just tells him the interpretation of the dream without even getting angry at this man, without even putting any conditions that I should be released from prison before I help you out. No, nothing like that. He just tells him the interpretation of the dream like that, right? And there's actually a narration that mentions that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very impressed with Yusuf alayhi salam and how he handled this situation as well. There's a narration that mentions that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if I were in Yusuf's place, I'm amazed at the situation, at how my brother Yusuf dealt with the situation. If I were in that position, then I would have made it a condition that they release me before I tell them. But Yusuf alayhi salam, he didn't do that. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was actually amazed with how Yusuf alayhi salam handled this situation. All right, so the man, he goes back to the king, and he tells the king that this is what Yusuf, who's in the prison, this is what he said, right? So now the king is very happy, and the king is really impressed with the fact that Yusuf alayhi salam was able to interpret this dream. So the king immediately, he asks for Yusuf alayhi salam to be released from prison. He sends some people to go to Yusuf alayhi salam, get him out of prison. I want to talk to him myself. Bring him to me. The king wants to meet Yusuf alayhi salam. So the king sends his messenger to the prison to bring Yusuf alayhi salam out of the prison. So the messenger goes to the prison and says to Yusuf alayhi salam that the king is asking for you to be brought to him. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ الرَّسُولُ قَالَ ارْجِعْ إِلَى رَبِّكَ فَاسْأَلْهُ مَا بَالُ النِّسْوَةِ اللَّاتِي قَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ إِنَّ رَبِّي بِكَيْدِهِنَّ عَلِيمٌ. Another amazing way that Yusuf alayhi salam handled this is that when the messenger of the king came to get Yusuf alayhi salam out of prison, now finally, after so many years of being unjustly imprisoned, now is his chance to actually leave jail, right? So most of us, we would have jumped at that chance, and we would be so happy, like, yes, let's get out of here. We've been here for too long, right? But Yusuf alayhi salam refused to leave the jail. He said, go back to the king. I'm not going to leave here until you go back to the king and ask him to go and ask those women who cut their hands. And we talked about the women who cut their hands earlier, right? Go and tell the king to talk to those women and ask them about me. So what is Yusuf alayhi salam saying here? Yusuf alayhi salam, he wants his name to be cleared. He wants the king to know that he is a person of purity and a person of innocence. He didn't do what the people were saying that he did. So before being released from jail, he wanted to be released with his reputation cleared. He didn't want there to be any type of question about his honor. he basically said, I'm staying in jail until the king talks to those women and finds out the reality of my situation from them. So the king, he says, okay, he will do this. So they gather those women who cut their hands, and also the wife of the Aziz, she also comes. The wife of Qitfir, who was the treasurer of Egypt, she's also in that gathering, right? So the king asks these women who cut their hands, he asks them, ما خطبكن إذ راوتن يوسف عن نفسه. That what tell me about what your deal was with Yusuf when you tried to come on to him and you tried to get him to commit these acts of immorality. Tell me about the reality of the situation. What really happened? What really went down? The king asks them, and they have to admit the truth. They say, قُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا عَلِمْنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنْ سُوءٍ. They said, the reality is, subhanallah, we didn't see anything bad from him. Everything from him was good, right? So they basically clear his name. Now the wife of the Aziz, she's the main one who tried to seduce him, who tried to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam, now she finally comes clean. She sees that all of these women have, testified on the purity and on the innocence of Yusuf alayhi salam. Now she sees no choice for herself except that she must also tell the truth now. Now the truth has to be told. So she tells the king, she says, قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسه وإنه لمن الصادقين. So she admits the truth that yes, now the truth is clear. I am the one who is guilty. I am the one who tried to seduce him, and he is truthful. He never tried to do anything with me. It was all my fault, right? So then after this, Yusuf alayhi salam, he was released from prison with his honor and with his reputation intact, alhamdulillah. Right. So now the king, very impressed with Yusuf alayhi salam, he interpreted the dream. He stayed in jail for something that is now clear that he didn't even do, and he was patient, right? He didn't make any problems. He's well known to even the people of the jail as an honest and righteous person, right? So the king is really impressed with this person, and the king values that this is a man of sincerity. This is a man of honesty. I can use this man to work, for me. He can be good for the state. He can be good for public work. So the king actually tells Yusuf alayhi salam, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي. He says, I want him for myself. I want this man to work directly for me. I want to put him in whatever position he wants. So he speaks to Yusuf alayhi salam. Now the king is speaking to Yusuf alayhi salam. Look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised the status now of Yusuf alayhi salam. That now he becomes basically the right-hand man of the king of Egypt, right? So the king talks to him. فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ قَالَ إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. The king says to him, now from today, you are someone who, in my opinion, you are someone who is trustworthy, and you can have basically any rank that you want. You have a high rank with me, so you just tell me what you want to do, and I'll put you in charge of that. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he sees this as an opportunity again to serve the people, right? So he says to the king immediately, قَالَ جَعَلْنِي عَلَى خَزَائِنِ الْأَرْضِ إِنِّي حَفِيظٌ عَلِيمٌ. He said, put me in charge of the storehouses where the food is stored. Because Yusuf alayhi salam, from the king's dream, Yusuf alayhi salam knows what the situation of the next 15 years is going to be. And he knows how to handle this situation. So he tells the king, put me in charge of the food storage, of the storehouses, in charge of the treasury, basically. Treasury includes money, it includes food, it includes all of these things. So he tells the king, put me in charge of this. Inni hafizun alim. Surely I know how to guard the storehouses and distribute it in the right way. And I have knowledge of how to deal with this situation as well. I have knowledge of how to deal with the treasury and with the storehouses. How did he have this knowledge? Whose house did he grow up in? Who bought him into Egypt? It was Qitfir. And who was Qitfir? Qitfir, he was the one who was in charge of the treasury. He was the one who was in charge of the storehouses. So Yusuf alayhi salam grew up in the house of this man who was the previous secretary of treasury of Egypt. So he learned from him. He saw his work. So he knows how to handle the situation. Now, by this time, Qitfir had passed away. He had died. So this position was open, and Yusuf alayhi salam tells the king, put me in that position. I know how to deal with this. I have knowledge of it, and I'm trustworthy, and I will guard the storehouses, and I will guard whatever comes into the storehouses, and I will distribute it in a way that is just and that is fair. So the king immediately he agrees to this. He said, okay, if that's what you want, that's what you get. So now Yusuf alayhi salam is basically given a very, very high rank and a very high position in the government of Egypt, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him through a lot of these difficulties, but each one of these difficulties was basically a stepping stone to get to this position, right? So he was in prison, he was falsely accused. All of these hard things happened in his life, you know, up to this point. But if these hard things didn't happen, then he would not be in the position that he is in today. If he was not in prison, if he was not unjustly imprisoned, he would not have met that man whom he interpreted the dream from. And that man would not have mentioned him to the king. And the king would never have asked him for the interpretation of the dream, right? So you see how all of these are like pieces in a puzzle. And some of these pieces of the puzzle were very difficult parts of the life of Yusuf alayhi salam, difficult stages in his life. But each one of those pieces of that puzzle, even the difficult pieces, they were necessary for him to reach the end here, to reach this stage where now he has a very high rank as the minister of finance, basically the secretary of treasury of Egypt, right? So what we learn from this is that sometimes, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you through difficult situations, and you may not see right now what the end game or what the end result of this situation is going to be. But perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's putting you through this difficult situation as a stepping stone for something big to happen in your life, for something really good to happen in your life. And if it weren't for this difficulty that you're facing, then maybe you would never reach that rank that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to reach. But he is giving it to you. He is giving you this difficulty as a stepping stone in order to reach that rank that he has decreed for you, right? So this is the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manages things. So even if you're going through hardship, even if you're going through difficulty, think about it in this way, that perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting me through this hard time because through this is one of the steps that is necessary for me to go through in order to reach a high level that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for me in this world or in the hereafter, right? So this is something to ponder upon, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees things for your benefit. So Yusuf alayhi salam now, he is in a very powerful position, and he's in charge of the storehouses of Egypt. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established Yusuf on this earth. He gave authority to Yusuf on this earth, right? يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. And he could do whatever he wants basically now. He's in a position of power. He can go where he likes, when he likes, do what he likes. He's in a position of extreme authority and power. نُصِيبُ بِرَحْمَتِنَا مَنْ نَشَاءُ وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we bestow our mercy upon whomever we please, and we will not ever allow the reward of the doers of good to go to waste. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he spent all of this time in prison doing good, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to let that time go to waste. Rather, he's going to give him the reward for whatever he did, right? So those years that he spent in prison, those years that he had so many difficulties, it was not a waste. It's not like 7 years of his life were wasted. No, not wasted at all. Rather, he accumulated so much good during that time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the reward for that good by giving him this position after he was released from prison. Alhamdulillah. So as long as you're doing good, nothing is ever going to go to waste. So be sure about that as well. No matter what type of difficulties you're going through, as long as you continue to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will never allow your good deeds to go to waste. So now Yusuf alayhi salam, he is in charge of the food storage, right? And eventually, after the 7 normal years, during those 7 normal years of harvest, Yusuf alayhi salam, he makes sure that the majority of the crops and the majority of the food is stored, and only very little is passed out to the people, only the minimum amount that they need to survive, to eat, right? So 7 years pass like that. Then after those 7 years, the 7 hard years pass, the 7 difficult years start. The 7 difficult years start. And those 7 difficult years, it's not only for Egypt. The famine is not only for Egypt. Rather, it's for the whole area. So this famine was in Egypt. It was in Palestine. It was all around. right? But Yusuf alayhi salam, he knew that this was going to happen, so he was prepared for it. So Egypt was prepared for it because Yusuf alayhi salam was in charge. Egypt was prepared, but other countries were not prepared for it. And those other countries that were not prepared for it include Philistine. Philistine was not prepared for it. So they were suffering. There's no food in Philistine. So everyone from different parts of the area, from Philistine, from other areas, where do they have to go now to get food? They can't, there's no food in their land anymore. There's no food in Philistine, right? Because of this drought and because of this famine. But who has food? Who has food that has been stored? Yusuf alayhi salam, he has food in Egypt. So it became known that yes, this secretary of treasury, this person who's in charge of the storehouses of Egypt, he has food and he's distributing it to whoever needs it. So Yaqub alayhi salam sends his sons to go to Egypt to get food. Now they don't know that they're going to be going and facing their own brother to get the food. They have no idea that their brother, you know, what has become of him. They don't know that he has reached this rank, right? So they go and they enter upon Yusuf alayhi salam. So now he sees his brothers after so many years. Last time he saw them was when they threw him into the well and sold him into slavery, right? Now after so many years, he sees them again. They enter upon him asking for food. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he recognizes them, that these are my 10 brothers. But they don't recognize Yusuf alayhi salam. It's been so many years, they don't realize who this is. They don't realize this is their brother, right? So Yusuf alayhi salam, you know, he's giving each of them their ration of food. So each person would get like 1 camel load of food. So they got 10 camel loads of food because they were 10 brothers. So while he's giving them the food, he asked them about their family. He said, okay, do you guys have any other brothers? And they said, yeah, we had one other brother, but he died. They're talking about Yusuf alayhi salam. So they're still lying. They say, yeah, we had one other brother, but he died. And we also have one other younger brother, but you know, he's staying with our father. He didn't come with us. And that's Binyamin. That's the youngest brother of Yusuf alayhi salam. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he listens to this talk about his family, and the brothers don't realize who they're talking to. So then Yusuf alayhi salam says, okay, you know, take this food back to your family in Philistine. But next time when you need to come back again for food, then make sure that you bring your younger brother too. You told me you have a younger brother, Binyamin. So make sure you bring him too. And if you don't bring him, then don't even come. Next time, if you want food from me, you better bring him as well, right? And in addition to that, he secretly put their payment back into their supplies. They came to get food from Yusuf alayhi salam, and they have to pay for it, right? They're not just going to get it for free. So they have to pay for it. So they paid for it, but Yusuf alayhi salam secretly, he put whatever they paid, he put their payment back into their supplies, so that when they go back and they open it up, they'll see that, you know, Yusuf alayhi salam gave them all of this food and he gave them their money back as well. So that would encourage them to come back again. That was the plan of Yusuf alayhi salam. So they go back with all of this food, 10 camel loads of food, and they tell their father, Yaqub alayhi salam, they said, like, look, he gave us all of this food, but he said, next time when we need more, we must bring Binyamin with us. And if we don't bring him, then he said that we're not going to get anything from him. So Yaqub alayhi salam, of course, you know, he's hesitant to do this, because what happened when last time he entrusted, you know, his son with them? When he entrusted Yusuf alayhi salam with them, they didn't bring him back. So now he's afraid for Binyamin as well. He says, قَالَ هَلْ آمَنُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ إِلَّا كَمَا أَمَنْتُكُمْ عَلَى أَخِيهِ مِنْ قَبْلِ, that should I entrust you with him like I entrusted his brother with you before? فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Allah is the best protector and he is the most merciful of those who show mercy. So they open up their supplies and they find the money is back. That whatever they paid, it has been returned to them. So they tell their father, like, look, he even returned back our money. We got all of this food basically for free. He's a good person. So please just entrust us. Next time we'll go back and we'll instead of getting 10 camel loads, we'll get 11 camel loads, right? So just please. So Yaqub alayhi salam, he finally agrees. So he says, okay, but I want you guys to promise me, and this is an oath with Allah. Allah is our witness, that you must bring Binyamin back to me, right? Except if something happens where you are overpowered, that you have no control over. But other than that, you must bring him back, and I want your solemn oath. I want a promise with Allah as the witness. And they agreed. They said, yes, we give you our promise. So then Yaqub alayhi salam, he lets them go. So they go. The next time they go back to Egypt, they go back with their brother. Now it's 11 of them. Binyamin is amongst them as well. So they come in and they enter upon Yusuf alayhi salam once again, and they said, Ya ayyuhal aziz, oh respected one, just like you told us to bring our brother, we have brought him, right? So then Yusuf alayhi salam, he's happy to see his younger brother, his youngest brother. And this brother Binyamin, he had nothing to do with what the other brothers did to Yusuf alayhi salam. He was not involved, with the brothers' plot against Yusuf alayhi salam, with their throwing him into the well. Binyamin had nothing to do with this. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he sees Binyamin, he's very happy. He takes him to the side and he privately tells him, Ana akhuka, I'm your brother, I'm Yusuf. فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So don't be sad about what your brothers do. I know what they do. I know how they are. So don't worry about it. I'm your brother, right? So Binyamin is very excited, but they keep this a secret between themselves, Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin. So Binyamin says, I want to stay with you. When they go back to Palestine, I want to stay with you. I want to spend some time with you. So Yusuf alayhi salam says, okay, I can make up some type of a plan that will cause you to stay with me. But your name or your reputation may take a hit, because I have to formulate a plan that for them to see that I need to keep you here. So Binyamin says, okay, no problem. Whatever you have to do it. I want to stay with you. So Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin, they come up with this plan. Yusuf alayhi salam says, I'm going to take basically this vessel, like a cup of the king, and I'm going to put it in your supplies, right? So that it will look like you tried to steal it. And then I will have a justification to keep you here because you tried to steal something. So Binyamin agrees to this. He said, okay, if you have to do that, then I don't mind. Go ahead and do it. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he puts the cup of the king into Binyamin's supplies. And as the brothers are leaving, as they're going back with their camel loads of food, they are called back. A caller calls them and he says, Ayyatuha al-'ir innakum lasariqun. Oh caravan, you are thieves, you stole something. So now the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they look back and say, وَمَاذَا تَفْقِدُونَ? What have you lost? We didn't steal anything. And they say that the cup of the king, this bowl of the king, basically it's like a vessel of the king. It is lost, and we think that one of you took it. And they said, قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين. They say, Wallah, you know that we are not people who came to make corruption on earth. We're not mischief makers and we're not thieves. Then the people of Yusuf alayhi salam, the assistants of Yusuf alayhi salam, they said, okay, if you're lying, if one of you has actually stolen the king's bowl, then what should be your punishment? So they said, our punishment, the way that we deal with these type of situations, in our law, and this is the law of Bani Israel, that if someone is caught stealing something, then that person becomes a slave for the one whom he stole from for 1 year. So that was basically the punishment from the law of Bani Israel, that if someone steals and he is caught, then that person who stole becomes a slave of the one whom he stole from for a period of 1 year, right? So that's what they said. This is how we punish these situations. So Yusuf alayhi salam and his people said, okay, so if we find that one of you stole, then we will punish according to your law, the law of Bani Israel. So they agreed. So then Yusuf alayhi salam's men, his assistants, they start looking through the supplies of all of the brothers. They start with the other brothers. When they get to Binyamin, they find the bowl, they find the vessel. And then the brothers of Binyamin, they think that Binyamin actually did try to steal it. They think he's actually guilty. And they say, قَالُوا إِن يَسْرِقْ فَقَدْ سَرَقَ أَخٌ لَهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ. So they said, yeah, if Binyamin stole, then his brother, he also stole before him too. They're talking about Yusuf alayhi salam. And what are they referring to here? The Mufassirin have mentioned that Yusuf alayhi salam, when he was a child, a beggar came to the home of Yaqub alayhi salam, asking for something. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he gave him an egg. He gave him an egg without asking permission, right? So that is why the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam said, yeah, he stole an egg. He stole an egg from the home that day. and gave it to this person, right? That is one of the interpretations that the Mufassirin have given about this, and there are other interpretations as well. But basically, they said that, if Binyamin stole, then yeah, his brother, he also did that before. فَأَسَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ. Yusuf alayhi salam, still he remained patient, he remained silent, he didn't say anything. But he said, أَنْتُمْ شَرٌّ مَكَانًا وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا تَصِفُونَ. That Allah knows, what you are describing. Allah knows your situation. Then they tried to beg Yusuf alayhi salam. They said to Yusuf alayhi salam, look, instead of keeping Binyamin, can you just take one of us instead? His father is an old man and he's going to be very heartbroken if we don't bring his son back. So can one of us, any one of us, if you want to take any one of us in his place, then we're willing to stay with you. We're willing to be, your slave and imprisoned by you. And Yusuf alayhi salam said, مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ أَن نَأْخُذَ إِلَّا مَنْ وَجَدْنَا مَتَاعَنَا عِنْدَهِ إِنَّا إِذًا لَظَالِمُونَ. He says, I seek refuge in Allah. How can we take an innocent person? We can only take the person whom we found our stuff with. The person who actually committed the theft, that's the only person that we can take rightfully. We can't keep an innocent person. How can we do such a thing? Inna idhal ladhalimun. If we were to do that, then we would be zalimun. We would be evildoers. So we're only going to take the one whom we found our supplies with, and that is Binyamin. So now they tried and they tried and they tried with Yusuf alayhi salam, but he said, no, I'm not going to release him. So when they lost hope that they could get Binyamin back, they decided, okay, we have no choice. We have to go back to our father and tell him what happened. The oldest one amongst them, he said, I'm not going to go back. I'm going to stay here in Egypt. How can I face my father? When we gave him a promise that we'll bring Binyamin back. And before that, what we did with Yusuf, I cannot show my face to my father. The oldest one, he said that. He said, I'm just going to stay here. حَتَّى يَأْذَنَ لِي أَبِي أَوْ يَحْكُمَ اللَّهُ لِي. Until my father gives me permission, or until Allah decrees for me to go back, I'm just going to stay here. وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wisest of those who make decisions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the wisest of the wise. And He is the wisest of those who make decrees. So then he advised them. He said, I'm staying here. The oldest brother said, I'm staying here, but you go back to him. You go back to Yaqub. You go back to your father and say to him, tell him what actually happened. Irji'u ila abikum faqulu ya abana inna ibnaka saraq. Go to your father and say that your son Binyamin, he stole something. He stole something, and that's why we couldn't bring him back. And if you don't believe us, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا. Ask the people of the city that we are in. They can bear witness that we're telling the truth. وَالْعِيرَ الَّتِي أَقْبَلْنَا فِيهَا. And the caravan that we were part of, they know what happened. So you can even ask them, and they will verify our story. They will tell you that we're telling the truth. وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ. Surely we are telling the truth. And they were telling the truth this time. But Yaqub alayhi salam, because of his previous experience with them, with what they did to Yusuf alayhi salam, now he lost his trust for them. He didn't believe them. Even though this time they are telling the truth. And that's a very important lesson we learn here. If you are known for lying, if you constantly lie, then even when you tell the truth one day, no one's going to believe you. Right? And all of you guys know the story of the boy who cried wolf, right? So this is basically why Yaqub alayhi salam didn't believe them. They lied in the past. Now they're telling the truth, but because of their reputation, because Yaqub alayhi salam knew that they were known for lying before, he believes they're lying this time too, even though they're telling the truth. So he says to them, قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَأْتِيَنِي بِهِمْ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْعَلِيمُ الْحَكِيمُ. He says, you guys just made up your own story again. I'm going to be patient. Patience is beautiful. And I have hope in Allah that He will bring them all back to me. I have hope that Allah will bring Yusuf back to me and He will bring Binyamin to me. So still, even after all of this hardship, his hope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still alive. And then he turned away from his sons and he said, Ya asafa ala Yusuf. Oh, I'm so sad over Yusuf. I miss Yusuf. And he cried so much that he actually lost his sight. He became blind, right? And the other brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, these 10 boys, they said, Tallahi tafta'u tadhkuru Yusufa hatta takuna haradan aw takuna min al-halikin. That you're still going to continue to remember Yusuf all the time until you become weak and until you die. So the jealousy they had of Yusuf alayhi salam was still there. That when he mentioned Yusuf, they still got kind of angry and they said, you keep remembering him, you're going to die remembering him, right? And then Yaqub alayhi salam said, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I only complain of my grief and my sadness to Allah. وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And I know from Allah that which you do not know. And then he told his sons, go back. يا بني يذهبوا فتحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه ولا تيأسوا من روح الله. Go and search and ask about Yusuf and his brother, and don't give hope in the mercy of Allah. Continue to search for them and don't lose hope in the mercy of Allah. No one loses hope in the mercy of Allah except disbelievers. So we still have hope that we can reunite as a family. This was the strength of the tawakkul, of the trust and the hope that Yaqub alayhi salam had in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they go back to Egypt again, right? And they say, يا أيها العزيز مسنا وأهلنا الضر وجئنا ببضاعة مزجاة فأوف لنا الكيل وتصدق علينا إن الله يجزي المتصدقين. They go back for more food. Now this time, the brothers of Yusuf, they don't really even have anything that they can pay Yusuf with. They don't have any money to pay him with. No? So they ask for him to give them some food as sadaqah. وَتَصَدَّقَ عَلَيْنَا. We don't, we have some wealth, we have some capital, some money that we can give you, some payment that we can give you, but it's not enough for what we need. So please just take what we have, and the rest, please give us as sadaqah. وَتَصَدَّقَ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْزِي الْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ. Allah gives reward to people who give charity, who give sadaqah. So now, this really melted the heart of Yusuf alayhi salam, to see his brothers in such a situation where they're basically asking for charity. So now he tells them who he is. He says, قَالَ هَلْ عَلِمْتُمْ مَا فَعَلْتُمْ بِيُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ إِذْ أَنْتُمْ جَاهِلُونَ. Do you remember, do you know what you did with Yusuf and his brother when you were jahil, when you were ignorant? And he tells them who he is. I am Yusuf. They ask him, قَالُوا أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ يُوسُف. Are you Yusuf? And he says, قَالَ أَنَا يُوسُف. Yes, I am Yusuf. وَهَذَا أَخِي. And Binyamin, this is my brother. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah has been gracious to us. He has been kind to us. And then he gives them a lesson. He says, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. This is basically the main lesson of this surah, this phrase. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. This whole story, this whole surah, it can be basically summarized and summed up with this verse. Right? So remember this part of the surah. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Whoever has taqwa, whoever keeps his duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by doing what he has commanded, staying away from what he has forbidden in all situations, وَيَصْبِرْ, and he's patient upon difficulty, patient upon calamities, patient in every situation, and continues to obey Allah, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will never allow the reward of those people who do good to be lost. If you have taqwa and you have sabr, you have consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have patience in every situation, then you will see the fruits of that. Allah will not allow your good to go to waste. And Yusuf alayhi salam's story is an example of that. Look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised his rank through his taqwa and through his patience. This is a very vital lesson that we need to learn from this surah. So then the brothers, they felt ashamed of what they did. They really sincerely felt sorry and regretful over their actions in the past. They said, تَاللَّهِ لَقَدْ آثَرَكَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Wallahi, we swear by Allah that Allah favored you over us. وَإِن كُنَّا لَخَاطِئِينَ. And surely we were mistaken. What we did to you was wrong. Yusuf alayhi salam, in another beautiful gesture, he says to them, قَالَ لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ يَغْفِرُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. There's no reproach on you this day. I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to reprimand you. What happened in the past is past, and may Allah forgive you. After going through so much due to what these people did, still Yusuf alayhi salam finds it in his heart to forgive them and to not even reprimand them. يَغْفِرُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. May Allah forgive you. وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful of those who show mercy. Then he tells them, go back to your father, go back to Palestine again, and take my shirt with you. Take my shirt with you. Right? And the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam, it would have the smell of Yusuf alayhi salam on it. Right? So if Yaqub alayhi salam can smell that, it would remind him of Yusuf, and it would heal his heart, and it would heal his eyes as well, as a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he tells his brothers, take my shirt, اذهبوا بقميص هذا فألقوه على وجه أبي يأتي بصيرا. Take this shirt, put it on on the face of my father, put it on the face of Yaqub alayhi salam, and his vision will return. He will be able to see again. And then وَأْتُونِي بِأَهْلِكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Then come back here to Egypt, bring your whole family. You can come and you can live here with me. You can settle here with me. So they go back, and as they come close, as they enter, even before they reach Yaqub alayhi salam says, Inni la ajidu riha Yusuf. I smell the smell of Yusuf. Right? They haven't even reached him yet, right? But they're just coming. They're coming closer. And he can smell the smell of the shirt of Yusuf from a very far distance. إني لأجد ريح يوسف لولا أن تفندون قالوا تالله إنك لفي ضلالك القديم. Some of the family members of Yaqub alayhi salam, when they heard him say that I smell the smell of Yusuf, they said, you're just talking in a way that that doesn't make sense. You remember Yusuf so much that you think you're smelling him, but you're really not smelling anything. This is what they said to him, right? They thought it was like a hallucination. Like a smell hallucination, basically, that you just think of Yusuf so much that you think you're smelling him, but you're not really smelling him, right? Then eventually the caravan comes in, the bearer of glad tidings, he puts the shirt over Yaqub alayhi salam's face as instructed by Yusuf alayhi salam, and the vision of Yaqub alayhi salam returns. He's not blind anymore. Then he tells the people, قال ألم أقل لكم إني أعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. Didn't I tell you that I know from Allah that which you do not know? You should listen to me. So then the sons, all of these 10 sons of Yaqub alayhi salam, who had caused him so much pain from their actions over the years, they say to their father, قالوا يا أبانا استغفر لنا ذنوبنا إنا كنا خاطئين. They say, oh, our father, ask Allah to forgive us. Surely we were wrong. Please, you ask Allah to forgive us. And Yaqub alayhi salam says, سوف أستغفر لكم ربي إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. I will ask Allah to forgive you. Surely He is the most forgiving and the most merciful. So then they got ready to leave Palestine and to relocate to Egypt. So Yaqub alayhi salam, he said, وَقَالَ ادْخُلُوا مِصْرَ إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ آمِنِينَ. We will enter Misr, we will enter Egypt, inshallah, in safety. So they enter Egypt. It's a beautiful reunification between Yaqub alayhi salam and his son Yusuf alayhi salam. The Mufassirin have mentioned that it was 40 years from the time that the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam took him, that day that they threw him in the well, to this day that Yaqub alayhi salam became reunited with Yusuf alayhi salam in Egypt. It was a period of 40 years. So a beautiful reunification between Yaqub alayhi salam and Yusuf alayhi salam. They come into Egypt. Yaqub alayhi salam, he takes his parents, his mother and his father, and he puts them on his arsh. So, because he's a person who has a very powerful position, he has a throne, basically, right? So Yusuf alayhi salam has a throne. He puts his parents on his throne. And then his parents and all of his brothers, the 10 brothers plus Binyamin, so 11 brothers, and the mother and the father, they all make sujood to Yusuf alayhi salam, right? Out of respect, sujood of respect, which was allowed in their sharia. It is not allowed in our sharia to make sujood to anyone. Even if it's not a sujood of worship, even if it's a sujood of respect, we do not make sujood to anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in their sharia, the sharia of Yaqub alayhi salam, it was permissible to make this type of sujood as a respect, not as a worship, of course. So they made sujood to Yusuf alayhi salam, وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. So 11 brothers, plus the father, plus the mother making sujood. And Yusuf alayhi salam remembered the dream that he had decades earlier that he told his father about when he was just a kid. Remember the dream he had, إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ عَشَرَ كَوْكَبًا وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ. I had this dream that Yusuf alayhi salam told his father, I had this dream that 11 stars and the sun and the moon are making sujood to me. Now his father and his mother and 11 brothers are making sujood to him. So he tells his father, قَالَ يَا أَبَتِ هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَايَ مِنْ قَبْلِ قَدْ جَعَلَهَا رَبِّي حَقًّا. That this is the interpretation of my dream. This is the realization of that dream that I had, oh my father, the dream that I told you about. This is the realization of that dream. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown such generosity to me. وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي إِذْ أَخْرَجَنِي مِنَ السِّجْنِ. He got me out of prison. وَجَاءَ بِكُم مِنَ الْبَدْوِ. And he brought you to me from the desert. He brought you to me to stay with me. من بعد أن نزغ الشيطان بيني وبين إخوتي. After the shaitan tried to make problems between me and my brothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has destroyed the plan of the shaitan and He has brought us all together in love again. So Yusuf alayhi salam was very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this favor and for thwarting the plot of the shaitan. And he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of thankfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. رَبِّ قَدْ آتَيْتَنِي مِنَ الْمُلْكِ وَعَلَّمْتَنِي مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. Oh my Lord, you have given me this kingdom, you have given me this authority and this power, and you have taught me the interpretations of dreams. فَاطِرِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. You are the creator of the heavens and the earth. أَنْتَ وَلِيِّي فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Ya Allah, you are my friend, my protector, my guardian in this world and in the hereafter. تَوَفَّنِي مُسْلِمًا. Ya Allah, cause me to die when the time of my death comes. Cause me to die as a Muslim. وَأَلْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ. And join me with the righteous ones. So this is basically the conclusion of the story of Yusuf alayhi salam from this beautiful surah, Surah Yusuf. And as we mentioned, so many beautiful lessons that we can learn from Yusuf alayhi salam and his story. Taqwa, patience, always remaining firm upon the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always making sure that you utilize your time in the right way, how to deal with isolation, how to deal with loneliness. All of these lessons can be learned from Yusuf alayhi salam during the various stages of his life. And as we mentioned, in a nutshell, if you want to take one takeaway lesson that covers this whole surah, it is إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Surely if you have taqwa and sabr, if you have consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that guides you to do good and it keeps you away from evil, and you have patience upon the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through good times and bad times, you remain firm upon your obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you remain patient obeying Allah. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will never allow the works and the actions and the reward of the doers of good to be lost. You will see the fruits of your good in this dunya and in the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all from the people who benefit from these lessons and implement these beautiful lessons in our lives. Ameen. Barakallahu feekum wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Inshallah, we can open the door for some questions now. Jazakumullah khairah.
Jazakallah Sheikh. If people have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions. If not, you can also type it in the chat window and we can answer any questions that come through that way as well.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I have like a tafsir question. So I've done some time like researching this, and I've come across some answers that are one way, some answers are another way. But the ayah, I think it's ayah 53, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا أُبَرِّغُ نَفْسِي, and gives the ayah about the nafs al-amaratun bisu, right? I was wondering, because I think there's some debate on whether the wife of the Aziz said it or Yusuf alayhi salam said it. I was wondering if you knew the sides or if you had an opinion.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is exactly right. There are different opinions regarding who said that. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. So yeah, there are some of the scholars who have said, some of the ulama of tafsir who said that this was Yusuf alayhi salam who said this, basically to show that he is not doing tazkiyah of his own self, like basically not freeing himself from any blame, right? And that's out of his humbleness, to show that, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm a human being as well. And, my nafs can tell me to do bad things as well. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects me from my nafs, then, I can stay on the right path. So when he says, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, I do not free myself from blame. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ, that surely the nafs, it commands a person to commit evil. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy upon that person. If Allah has mercy on that person, then that person will be able to fight his nafs. The nafs is telling you to do something bad, but because of Allah's mercy upon you, you're able to fight your nafs, and you don't obey your nafs. Inna Rabbi Ghafur Rahim. So Yusuf alayhi salam, if we say that this was a statement of Yusuf alayhi salam, then he's saying it in this way, that yes, I have a nafs too. My nafs may tell me to do bad things, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows his mercy upon me, then I would be able to fight that by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's one interpretation, that Yusuf alayhi salam is the one who said it in this context. And another interpretation, as you mentioned, is that this is all from the wife of the Aziz. She's saying all of the of the statements from when she said حصحص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسه وإنه لمن الصادقين ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين وما أبرئ نفسي إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي إن ربي غفور رحيم. All of this was said by the wife of the Aziz, that she basically, after she knew that the truth had come out, she said حصحص الحق, that now the truth is clear. Yes, I am the one who tried to seduce him, and he was telling the truth. And I'm telling you this now, I'm admitting this so that that it is known that I did not betray my husband. Yes, I tried to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam, but nothing ever happened. So I want my husband to know that I didn't betray him. ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. That's what that means. That's the wife of the Aziz is saying, that my husband should know that I did not betray him in his absence. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he does not guide the plots of those people who betray others. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. Now this is just continuing. So if you look at the context, it seems that this is all from the speech of the wife of the Aziz, because it all flows together. So I've read both of these opinions, and in my opinion, it seems more likely that this is the speech of the wife of the Aziz, because Yusuf alayhi salam was not even there yet when this conversation was going on. He was still in prison, right? He was still in prison. And the wife of the Aziz, she said all of this stuff. And then after وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. After this statement was made, then the next verse says وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي. After this, then the king said, bring him to me, bring Yusuf to me, and I want him to be close to me, and I want him to work for me. So it seems, if you look at the whole context in the verses before and the verses after, that Yusuf alayhi salam was not even present when this conversation was taking place. After this conversation took place, that is when the king said, bring Yusuf to me, right? If you look at the next verse as well. So that's why I think, from looking at all of the different tafasir, all of the different interpretations, I think what makes more sense according to the context is that all of this speech, it was from the wife of the Aziz, and it was not the speech of Yusuf alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Yeah, because that's so I think is the majority opinion for when I looked it up as well. I don't know if because I thought that was just because when I first read this verse or whatever, I thought it was very powerful, the fact that a prophet, a Nabi of Allah, said something like that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to be that way, but it turns out it isn't.
Exactly. So I think if you look at the verses, that couple of verses before, and the next verse that comes after, it will seem clear from the context that it was all the speech of the wife of the Aziz.
Okay, is that okay?
Barakallahu feek.
Anybody else have any questions? Again, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. If not, you can also type your questions in the chat window. Sheikh, I did have a question for you.
Sure.
What do we know about the mother of Yusuf alayhi salam?
Yeah, we don't know much about her. Some of the Mufassirin have mentioned that her name was Rahil. All right, and that's basically all we know about her. Some of the Mufassirin have also mentioned that her father was actually an idol worshipper, the father of the mother of Yusuf alayhi salam, and that's actually one of the interpretations. Like I mentioned, the verse where the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they said, قالوا إن يسرق فقد سرق أخ له من قبل. They said, yeah, if Binyamin stole, then his brother stole something before. The interpretation that I gave was the opinion that he took an egg and gave it to someone who was begging. Another interpretation of that is that his mother's father, the mother of Yusuf, her father, that's Yusuf's grandfather from the mother's side. He was an idol worshiper and he had an idol. And Yusuf alayhi salam basically took one of his idols basically and destroyed it. So, that he stole, quote unquote, stole the idol and destroyed it. So that's, we don't have so much information about her. But, these are some tidbits of information that the Mufassirin have mentioned.
Jazakallah khairan. Anybody else have any other questions? Feel free to use the chat as well if you have any other questions. If we don't have any other questions, we want to thank you, Sheikh, again for taking us through this surah in the beautiful manner that you always do. So Jazakallah for keeping us.
Benefit for the community. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to implement the beneficial lessons that we learn.
Ameen. And I know next week is our last Tuesday before Ramadan starts. So for everybody on the call, we will be doing essentially a special for Ramadan to help us get prepared, get our mindset in the right frame of mind to start what is going to be a very different Ramadan than what we've all experienced in the past years, right? Our experiences are going to be different. So how do we get our mental state of mind in the Ramadan mood, even though we may not be connected with the masjid like we may have been in the past, right? So inshallah, from next Tuesday, we'll have that. And then if you have any questions with regards to Ramadan and things like that, please come prepared so that you can ask those questions and have Sheikh give us some guidance on particular matters or issues that you may have as well. That said, thank you again. Thank you everybody for participating. And inshallah, we will see you next week. Barakallah fi Sheikh.
Allah yabarak fik. Thank you, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.